One of the most important facets of any business is customer service. In business, you are not only selling a product or a service, but an experience. Providing exceptional customer service and developing real relationships with your clients means increased sales, retain customers, new customers via word of mouth, and a positive reputation. You're listening to the Focus on Customer Experience podcast. Benjamin Del Grosso gives you the ins and outs of one of the most underlooked aspects in business today. Improve your customer service and watch your business skyrocket. 2, 1. Now, here's your host, Benjamin Del Grosso.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today we have a special guest. She started her company in 2013. Her goal was to help improve professional lives by tapping into the latest science of nonverbal communication. So the question is, how good are your body language skills? She is endorsed by the Senior Vice President of Google India. So this is going to be a really great conversation. Really looking forward to it. So why don't you introduce yourself and let us know who you are, where you're from, and what you do, a little bit more about yourself.
Hi, Benjamin. So nice to be here. So nice. So you've been kind to introduce me the way you did. My name is Khyati Bhatt, and I specialize in non-verbal communication. What we do basically is, like you said, we help to bring about excellence in whatever be your field of expertise. So that's primarily what we do with the techniques of nonverbal communication. I am from Mumbai, India, and I'm the founder and CEO of 2 brands. One is Simply Body Talk, one is Q Kids. Both of these specialize in body language, one for senior leaders and one is for kids. So that's what we do. Yeah, broadly, that's what we are all about.
Yeah, that's awesome, because I mean, we're at a day and age where people are picking up their phones and looking at their phones and not paying attention to people. They're not communicating the same way they used to. So having to read off of their nonverbal communication, right? Their cues, their facial expressions, that's something that obviously noticed is starting to become a lot more frequent, a lot more popular.
Yes.
So what are some things that maybe people can do, or what are some of the things that maybe you talk about?
Okay, so the first is obviously, like you rightly said, right? You can't really be multitasking if you want to make a conversation more impactful and be involved in that conversation. So that's something that we all need to start out with. Keep your devices aside when you're having a meaningful or a difficult conversation with somebody, or it's your first conversation with somebody sitting across from you. And what we generally teach is, again, that you don't just focus on somebody's face, because the face does have a rich experience, or a lot of information on it, but there's the whole body that you need to look at in order to understand the person truly for what they're saying. And another thing is, there are times when as a society we are a little polite, so we don't really say everything that's going on in our minds. So the person sitting across might not really be, that forthcoming to you. It's up to you to be a good observer and try to understand what exactly they are feeling or thinking, so that ultimately, again, you can connect and understand what they want or what they like, and be there and make them feel comfortable about it. So that's primarily, what the focus should be when we are trying to communicate with people and also understand them.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I mean, because there's so many times you're at the dinner table, you go out and eat, you're out in public and you're trying to talk to somebody and they're staring at their phone. They're not even with you in the moment. They're not communicating with you, right? So, we've kind of gotten anti-social, right? And it's funny because they call them social networks, because we sit on our phones and type into Facebook and Twitter or whatever all these things are, right? But we're so engaged in this virtual world, I guess, as you could say, instead of us just being in the moment and communicating, right? And we've even found ourselves, I mean, I of a home-based business, e-commerce, all that kind of stuff, right? And a lot of times I'm, attached to my phone because people are calling me, people are emailing me. Because of that, I think we sometimes give off that impression to our kids that the phone is more important than they are, right?
Yes.
Which is not really what we want to give off. But unfortunately, everything is, the emails are forwarded to the phone, the calls, the texts, if somebody posts a question on social media that we have to answer. Unfortunately, with that home-based business, because I don't have a brick and mortar, everything is pushed towards that phone. So it's just different. I guess it's just the way we communicate on so many different levels now. But I mean, I know that my kids are reading off of my, nonverbal, thinking that I'm sending the message to them that they're not as important as this phone occasionally, right?
Yes. So I think we just need to segregate what time is important to be given where, because ultimately, thinking about it the other way around, if you are doing two things, like if you are trying to answer to a client and at the same time you are with your family, you are not even doing justice to the client as well, right? So that's what probably, as a society, as we start getting more and more digital, we have to be able to segregate what is quality time with people we are with versus the digital time that we are spending with those virtual connections in front of us again. And that probably will help us do justice to both of these worlds equally well.
Oh, yeah. So, I mean, because we kind of were already bringing it up here. So, when you look around at the world today, like what has stood out to you as the biggest change in how we're interacting, right? As customers, as humans.
So I think there are two levels to it. One is, the immediate impact which the whole lockdown brought into our lives, which is that we are all wearing masks a lot of times. I think they are going away in a few of the countries, but even otherwise in public spaces, we do see people wearing the mask. So now what that does to communication is obviously, one, hamper the other person from understanding exactly what you are communicating vocally, because the words get muffled. But along with that, since we understand each other more than 50% of that message through the non-verbals, and the face is very expressive. So, and we are used as humans to look at each other, I mean, focus on the face and speak. That's why when half of that face gets covered, we start getting a little edgy. Am I getting the other person correct or not? Am I being able to communicate what I want to that person or not? So these are, some of the changes. So what we need to ideally do is again look at the whole body to understand, are they looking edgy from the other perspectives, are they looking comfortable or not? And you have to be a little better at reading the upper half of the face, which is also very expressive, and that can also tell you a lot about what's happening or what's going on in people's minds. So that's one thing. And the longer term impact is that, we are going into a digital era. So there what happens is, just give me a second. So since, things are started to become digital, what happens is, in the customer experience that we are giving as a brand to people around us, we need to remember that being digital is great. It helps your processes to become more efficient. But as humans, somewhere, if that interaction is missing, then the warmth that your brand stands for, that can go missing. So I'll give you one example. Say I'm a very big fan of Marks and Spencer as a brand. Now, when they give me that text message saying that, Khyati, happy birthday, we are expecting you, we are giving you that discount, I'm so thrilled, I'll walk into that store. But after that, it's that personal experience that I'm getting from the staff there. It's the kind of look and feel of the space, the whole non-verbals that I'm getting out of that. That is what stays with me. That is what gives me the feel of that brand. And that's what we want to keep coming back to again and again. So that's why, balancing out what we want to stand for digitally, and also balancing it out with a personal touch to the customer experience, that's what is required as, we progress into the future world.
Yeah, no. So yesterday, I went into Starbucks because I was getting my vehicle revinyled with some new graphics. And you go in there, they're running around with their heads chopped off. They're busy, something's going on. I think they're restocking the shelves or something, right? And they say hi quick. And then on top of that, I'm just kind of waiting. And so then they come up and, they didn't ask the normal stuff that a normal Starbucks would do. Kind of, like, what are you drinking today? Right. They usually say, what would you like to get started today? That's usually what they ask. That's their brand. That's the question they ask. This person didn't ask that at all. On top of that, when they, on top of that, I gave them my drink order. I ordered a blueberry muffin. And then what ended up happening is they didn't ask my name. They usually always ask your name. That's a big thing too, that I've noticed the last 2 years has really changed. So, I'm the guy's wearing a mask, so I can't read his and like really any of his cues. All I can see is eyes. We have no rapport. I've never been to this Starbucks before. So I have no idea if he's a new employee. I don't know if he is manager. I don't know if he's, not happy in his job and just is doing a half-assed job. So, I mean, when my coffee comes up, they just say, they just put it out and saying that style coffee's done. But I mean, there's other people waiting there. So I don't know. I'm guessing it's mine. So I just grab it and leave. Like, but I mean, typically, I don't know if you've ever been to Starbucks, but Starbucks will say, they'll ask your name.
Yes.
Right. Because they try and make it a personal experience. Right. And then when it's done, they say, Ben, your coffee's ready. Right. Here you go. Coffee for Ben. And you go up and you feel, warm inside. They know my name. I don't even know their name, but they know my name. And, that was kind of like, that was their big experience. And I've noticed over the last 2 years, they have not really been doing that. So on top of these masks being on, you can only read people's eyes, right? Which is, it's really hard. And then I don't know where you're located, but we have these plexiglass barriers between us and them. So on top of them having the mask, it's muffled. You barely understand what they're saying. And they, they creep down and talk through some little hole, so, you can't, it's so hard to read off, the nonverbal communication right now.
Yes.
And what I've noticed now we've gone to a no mask policy where we are. But probably at least depending where you are in the greater Vancouver area, some places you'd be lucky to see someone wearing a mask. In some places, it's probably 75% of people are wearing a mask still. And that's fine. Some people, they're not comfortable. But to read off just the eyes, it's a hard thing. I feel like I'm re-teaching myself how to read off of that, because I don't know if somebody's smiling, right?
Okay.
So
see, there are lots of cues to that. What happens is when you start looking at the entire body, I'll give you the example of the smile itself. Now, this person, if he was in a hurry, but he was being apologetic about it, when he turns towards you or when he looks towards you, when he orients towards you, you will see that, in his other expressions as well. So, for example, he'll put his hands up, palms up, and speak to you that, I'm trying to hurry up. That's probably something he's trying to do. If he has a genuine smile, then you will see that, wrinkles around the eyes, which is anyways visible from the top of the face. So that's what we are talking about. That obviously it's a difficult time, that, so many barriers to make the communication that was so easy and intuitive for us a little while back. When we talk about body language, there have become so many barriers that it's difficult for it to be very, very natural. But then there are techniques that we can use till we go back to that normal, where all those barriers break away and we can again be, as we were at one point. So, and like you said, right, customer experience, when we talk about the customer experience, what a brand has made you habituated to, that is what you start expecting from them. So like you said, Starbucks, it's, you relate that to, what they are giving you. So it's like a two-edged sword. Like, do you want to give that good experience and then have your customers coming back every time asking for that experience back from you? or do you want to maintain slightly mediocre kind of quality so that every time you don't have to stand up to it and make sure that every branch of yours or every franchisee of yours is able to maintain that uniform customer experience? Because we do work with brands as well, and this is something that becomes a very big issue, that are the brands able to maintain a uniformity when it comes to the experience that the customer is having with them, no matter where they travel? It could be just one cafe shop in your country, like from one to the other, or it could be across nations. The experience that I have, it has to be similar, and your non-verbal communication, it plays a very big role over there. So
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, I've worked at a lot of different places where we have 2 or 3 stores or more. You go into one store and this is your price, this is your experience, when your vehicle's finished, someone goes out and shows you how it works. And then the other store would just go, here's your keys, have a good day. And you're supposed to be the same company, supplying the same experience. So when that happens, there's a whole breakdown because the customer's let down, the customer's not getting the full experience, right? And then you have all these, I don't know, like nonverbal cues, right? Like, I just think it's very interesting, uh, what you do, right?
It's those small, simple things, like you mentioned, right? How much time is that person giving to you to make you feel special? Even in a waiting line, like, there are brands where you need to check out yourself. So when you're in that waiting queue, other people from the checkout zone who are able to understand that, okay, this is one person who's starting to get a little tensed or, uncomfortable, or he is in a hurry, and they are able to come up to you and either distract you with something or help you out to make that process faster. It's these minute things that all add up into your customer experience. And when you as a customer are choosing one brand from the other, product, yes, product quality is one thing, pricing is one thing, but then the experience that you're getting from that brand, it's a totally different thing, and a lot of us will swear by that experience that that brand is giving us. So non-verbal communication, it plays a very big role there.
So, because we're talking about, your body language skills and everything, out of curiosity, do you do anything in terms of like handshakes? Do you deal with anything like, what's in a handshake? Because I know there's a lot of business people out there, because I mean, there are people who are starting to shake hands again and everything. But for many, many years, that was a big part of communication. I know there'd be guys that would shake my hand and go, "You have a good handshake. I want to do business with you." I'm like, okay, I don't know what that means, but cool, right?
Yeah.
Is that something that you're involved in, or do you
So
have some?
incidentally, just before this podcast, I was recording for a podcast that we have, and I have spoken exactly on this topic of handshakes, because it starts from that handshake, it ends at that handshake, and there's so much that happens in between. So when you just shake hand with a person, one, you understand what intent they are all about, right? Is this person open to speaking, or are they there just to understand, or just for that formality because that meeting was set up? You also understand their personality. Is there somebody who's dominant as a personality? Are there somebody who's a little shy? That you understand. And the difference in the handshake that you experience from the beginning, when you don't know the person sitting across from you, to the end of the conversation, right? Has it changed to be better? Has it changed to be worse off? That also gives you a cue into what to expect after that meeting. So it's a small thing. I mean, how much time do we spend behind that handshake? Hardly a few seconds, but it can tell you so many different things. And that's just the start. So body language is so much more there. But like you rightly said, without the handshake, it's difficult to get a feel of the person. So there was a time when this lockdown started, journalists started asking us these questions: are the handshakes gone for good? Are the namaste going to be back? And I used to start wondering, they don't know the power of the handshake, because that's the only touch that you can experience in the professional environment, and that touch can really bridge that gap between people. So it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, no, handshakes I mean, I would say even during COVID, I had a lot of people that would just shake hands with me because that's who they are, right?
Yeah.
They are people that like, you shake hands. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll shake hands. Like, whatever. That's
Mm.
I'm cool with that, right?
Mm.
But not everybody is comfortable with that. So the difference is, prior to this whole pandemic, I would put my hand out. If they shook my hand, they shook my hand, right?
Mm.
But now I don't put my hand out. If they do, I'll shake their hands because I just don't want to make people feel uncomfortable. There are still some people out there that don't feel
Yes.
comfortable with all of this, right? So,
Yes.
and I understand that. So, but yeah, no, I mean that's interesting. The whole handshake. I mean, and there's people who go into all sorts of craziness. Like, are they looking at you in the eye when they shake your hand? Are they looking
Yes.
down? Are they?
Yes.
It's like, wow, I can't believe all that. So, but so what is one thing you do or have done to provide like a positive experience?
Okay, in terms of customer experience, okay, so as a brand, what I'm very finicky about is the quality that we deliver to our clients, customers, because we do have products and services both. So quality is of utmost importance. And when you come to me, I have to let you know that, I've spent time in understanding you. And that's something which I think is missing in a lot of places, that people are so busy just, wanting to say their part of the story, that they're not listening. So what we do is, for example, if we are going to go into a training session, the HR might have told me that, okay, so and so are the requirements that we have, and the team that's sitting in, they have these things that need to be sorted out from the HR perspective. But we still insist that I want to speak to the people who are going to be attending. Now when we do that, I realize what those pain points are. And once we have the role plays and all happening, we take up exactly the pain points that these people have, the participants of the training. And suddenly we have that aha moment, that, oh, how did you understand that, this is what is troubling us. And when we provide that answer to them within that training, they understand that, okay, this is a person who's really understood us, and that leaves that positive experience for them. So it's about delivering the utmost quality, but also making it very, very personal. And one more thing that we do, so this is when I'm delivering a particular training or an experience to you as a customer, but what about as a brand, how do we improve over time? So for that, what we do is we have this feedback system. So when the trainings are big, or when there's a lot of crowd and we are taking feedback from each person, it can go into hundreds and thousands of feedbacks that are coming in. But I still spend that time to go through each and every bit of that feedback, because over time what's happened is, we one have gotten so many ideas about how we can improve the quality of what we are doing, but it's also given me so many ideas about how we can extend the offerings that we give. So ultimately it helps you to improve the experience of the next customer, and it also helps you to bring build the kind of offerings you can provide. So as a brand you grow, as a business you grow. So that's
Yeah,
how it
so
helps.
it sounds to me like you do a lot of listening to your clients,
It's
right?
important, isn't it?
Yeah, because a lot of people don't listen, and I talk a lot
Hmm.
about how when I was working for a big box company many years ago, they were
Hmm.
in a listening phase, which means like
Hmm.
almost anything the
Hmm.
employees brought up to them, they
Hmm.
would look into. They would go, that might not be a bad
Okay.
idea, and they would look
Hmm.
into it. And
Hmm.
then they went into a phase of, we already know better, so we're not going to listen to you anymore, right?
Hmm.
And then you could kind of tell employees started rotating. The whole thing kind of changed in the company, right? Because they weren't
Hmm.
listening. And
Hmm.
so it's very important to listen to your clients, listen to your employees, you
Yes.
know, and that's a big thing. So if you're listening to your clients
Hmm.
to make sure to deliver them what they're asking for, instead of just
Hmm.
going, I know better, right? You
Hmm.
know what I mean? And just
Yes.
coming in there and
Yes.
saying, better.
Hmm.
So I think that's great. It's important too.
Yes, and I think you mentioned a very important point, which is that as a company, you need to listen to your employees as well, because ultimately they are the ones who are representing you as a brand. And when they are not satisfied, the way they communicate through their maybe the verbal expressions, but more through their non-verbals, it does speak to the customer, right? About how settled they are, how satisfied they are, how confident they are, and ultimately that's what the customer is going to take back from you. So while you want to listen to your customers, you also want to listen to your employees, because they are ultimately representing you. So that's a very important point, I think.
Oh yeah, it's important. All right. So is there a book you've read that has influenced your life?
Okay, so I think The Fountainhead, that's a book which has been with me. I read it in my college days when I was around 16 or 17. That was a phase when I was still in that mode that, I want to be a different person, and I don't know why people don't understand me. And the protagonist of the story, I could really, relate to him. And I think there's this one dialogue, I don't care what you think, Mr. Tui. So that's the one, that's really been impactful. So I would advise people who like reading to go back and read Ayn Rand's all the books. They are beautiful.
Yeah, so you're saying Fountainhead, correct?
The Fountainhead, yes.
The
Howard Rock
Fountainhead.
is the protagonist, yes.
Interesting. Yeah, I'll have
Yeah.
to take a look. I don't know, I got another 4 or 5 books I got to go through here. So,
So it's
but
more of a capitalist approach, but I like that kind of an approach. As an entrepreneur, it really helps you because you stand by your beliefs, you stand by what you would like to provide to the world, and not really just go by popular choices. And that's what makes you stand out. So that's why I think I started identifying with that character in the book, and I still love that book so much. So.
yeah, yeah, because that's what you're talking about. Yeah. So going with the popular choices, right? So that's what it tells you, is not to go with the popular choices, right?
Yeah, so it says you believe in yourself more than just caring about what people want. And if you believe in yourself, if you know what you can deliver, ultimately the world will be able to see you for who you are and what you stand for. So.
It's interesting. I mean, so I had a whole bunch of people over the last 2 weeks keep quoting the movie Moneyball to me. And I don't know if you've seen the movie Moneyball, but everybody keeps on, you need to watch Moneyball. And they're telling me, oh, that's what you need to do with your podcast. You need to be like Moneyball. Like you need to do completely different than what everybody else is doing. Right. And it sounds to me kind of like what the book's about is I guess maybe the word is going against the grain, I guess, going against the popular thing. And I watched Moneyball just the other night, and it was all about, we have to get this player because they have this and they're this popular and they're worth this amount of money and they're going to do this. And they bring in this economics guy, right? Who's saying, well, you look at all these weird statistics that nobody really looks at, and this guy will do this and this and that for you. And they end up building this team. They didn't end up winning, but the thing is they went against all the normal statistics, the normal things that everybody tells you to do. So it's interesting thought, because that's what people keep telling me I need to do with the podcast is go completely different than what everyone else is doing, right?
Okay. And Brad Pitt is obviously phenomenal. So just for his acting as well, you might just want to watch that movie. It's beautiful.
Oh yeah. To be honest, I never watched it for years because I thought it was going to be sorry people, I thought it was going to be a stupid baseball movie. so then I watch it and I'm like, oh, this is a movie I do like. I don't know why I didn't watch it 11 years ago when it came out. So but yeah, I don't know, is there one thing, if there's one thing you could change in the entire world today, what would it be and why?
Okay, that's interesting. Okay, so I think the more we are digitizing things around us, the more it scares me. I remember just a few days back, I was telling my husband that I am so glad I'm not the future generation, 2-3 generations down. And then I started wondering, what made me say this? And it's probably where we are heading somewhere. We talking about putting chips into our brains and digitizing everything, robots everywhere. I mean, the whole point is, as a species, we've survived because we are so social in nature. That's been the strength of us as a species. Now, if you are going to be digitizing everything around and putting that one human to be working from home, having nothing around him, what is the future that we are talking about? So I wish, if that change could be happening, then governments, I don't know who's the one person who can probably be that police who can tell people that let's not, or rather let's draw that line where we want the digitization to stop and the humanizing to continue. So that's probably what scares me, and I wish it never comes about the way we are talking it to come. So
Yeah, it makes you wonder, right? You see all these movies. You think about like a movie with Tom Cruise, Minority Report, and how
yes.
they were looking into the future, and they go, "You're going to kill somebody in a week's time at this day, so we're arresting
Yeah.
you for something you haven't even done yet."
Yes,
Because
it's
because
weird.
that's what our digital data shows, is you're going to commit this murder in a week. And and then you have these other movies like Terminator 2 Judgment Day, where the world's got all these robots, killing everybody, and there's barely any humans. And just, it's really weird, the digital world and where we're going with robotics and electronic.
Yeah.
And I mean, and how are you going to read nonverbal communication from a
Yeah,
robot?
it's already
Like,
becoming so much more difficult, isn't it? That if you don't meet people, how do you understand what they're all about? And you're talking about, I can't even imagine, a drone coming and delivering that courier to my place, because even that small smile back to the postman, telling him thank you for giving me back that courier which I was so expecting, and him liking it that somebody is giving him that attention, that's so human. You sit into a cab and you just exchange those two sentences with the cab driver, telling him how's been your day, and I've been a little busy, and just making people and the whole society feel that we are still humans, we are in touch. So it's crazy. I mean, if we are really heading into that zone, then I really fear for the future generations. I wish something happens that makes us all realize that we need to draw a line somewhere as to what we want artificial intelligence to do for us and what not. So,
yeah, it seems like government should write some sort of legislation or ruling that says that a certain amount of the workforce needs to be employable. It isn't replaced by robotics or by AI or whatever. Like, it seems like, because if they don't, you could have a whole company running off of basically robots, right?
yes,
Like, I
and
don't
the
know.
funny thing is population is increasing and jobs are all getting digitized. So what's the future then? What do we do with the population that's coming up, and they all need to earn somewhere? So it's a scary thing, and like you say, if the government can do something about it, nothing like it. But that might take some time, because I think
Yeah, I
everybody
mean,
looks at the economy, that if things can be faster, quicker, cheaper, let's start doing it. So
yeah, it does feel like we're going to a space in time now where things are going to get more expensive, because they already are due to inflation. But it seems like maybe we need to revert back to having like higher quality products, instead of having these products that we rotate through in a year or 2 years, having products that last 10, 15 years again. You're going to pay more for it, but you're already paying more for everything right now. So I don't know what will end up happening, because it seems like we're in this, like I do dash cameras, and someone said to me on one of the podcasts, well, they buy it, and a lot of dash cameras are $100 to $200. So when someone buys one, if it doesn't work even in a month, they take it, they throw it out the window, and they buy another one, and they have one the next day from an Amazon or whoever, right? So, what's it gonna where's it gonna go? Like, instead of them just picking up the phone and calling you and say it didn't work, they just throw it out the window and buy another one. Like, we're in this weird phase in the world, because I couldn't imagine years ago just taking something, throwing it out the window, and buying another one. Like,
yeah, so I
I
know
could
that
never think
our
about that.
parents, they talk about using the same products through generations. I mean, not even years, through generations. And here we are changing our products every second year or third year, and it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, I mean, I usually get a phone every year or two. I used to get a phone every year. Every time the new
Okay.
iPhone came out, I got the new iPhone. I was standing in line. And then I was like, you know, do I need it every year? Now it's like every second year I upgrade it, but that's typically because the contract's up or whatever. But I mean, there's people I deal with that have phones that are 6-7 years old, right? And it still works for them. It still works, does what it needs to do.
I
So
think that's to speak about the brand strength of Apple that makes you go back to them every year and stay loyal to them and keep spending on the products. So I think there they have achieved the customer experience that we keep talking about somewhere,
yeah,
to
they
make
typically do.
people stand in line and wait for the products. So
They create that. So do you have any final words, or do you have any, thoughts regarding?
So I think we've talked about the future world, and that's probably what I had been thinking about before we had this podcast. That what is it that we are going into? What is the customer experience going to be at a point when everything is going to be just a click away? So the whole idea being, let's just stay human and let's just keep inspiring each other by being present in each other's company when we are with people around us, and hopefully that will keep us all connected as a species and we can stay the superior species that we are as humans.
Oh yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
It'd be great. I mean, you had to hug lots of people recently, which is great. Some people we haven't seen for a while. I'm going to go in a month's time. I'm going to go see some people I haven't seen in 2 years, which is great.
Oh, so I went crazy last week, just going and meeting people, because it's a very, very different experience to be in people's company and speaking to them, experiencing them, like you said, hugging them, shaking hands with them. It's a very different experience.
Oh yeah, and definitely we've gone to the coffee shop a lot lately, and I like to meet with people, and we got together with about 10 of us and took over a Starbucks location and we had a really great time, great conversation, lots of different things, politics, school, whatever, all sorts of different things we were all talking about, right? And yeah, I mean, it's good to see everybody in person, and a lot of people are hugging each other, shaking hands. Everybody's trying to get back to normal, right? So there's a lot of people that want to get back to normal, and then there's going to be, I think, a small percentage that are like, I'm good with just sitting at home, looking at a computer all day and not having to interact with anybody. So
hopefully they will be able to change their minds. So let's see.
Oh yeah, no, definitely. So I mean, thanks a lot for coming on the show and talking.
My pleasure. And I think you are a great host. You got so much of interesting conversation to keep it going. So thank you so much, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to the Focus on Customer Experience podcast. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts so you never miss an episode. For more information or to connect with Ben, check out Benjamin Del Grosso on LinkedIn, at Safe Drive Solutions on Instagram, or www.safedrivesolutions.ca online. We'll see you next time.